Okay, so we're ready to get started with Chapter 2, which is getting started with CSS. We are going to start with a file that looks like this. Our HTML is done for us, but we don't have any formatting or anything done yet because we don't have any CSS files linked to our HTML file. And we will hopefully end up with something that looks like this. Same information, just displayed differently because we have a CSS file that is going to help us lay things out a little bit better. So let's go into Text Wrangler, and I'm going to do a file open, and I want to open TSS home TXT. Oops. And this is in the Chapter 2 tutorial file. So TSS home TXT HTML, and I'm going to make some changes to this. So I'm going to do a file save as, and I'm going to put my name at the beginning just like we always do. Get rid of that TXT. Make sure it's going back in the Tutorial2 folder. Okay, so let me just go to my folder and open that file up so that we can view it. So there we go. Excuse me. Alright, so we're going to work on the CSS files ourselves, but for this first one, they're going to get us started with a layout file. So I am going to come down in my head section. After the title, I am going to link CSS file, which is tss_layout.css, and this is a style sheet. So just like we did in the last chapter, we are going to link files that they gave us. We're also going to create some of our own that we will link. But this first one is going to get us started. So I'm going to save this and come in and refresh my page. So they're using two CSS files for this. We used two CSS files for last chapter also. One file does the layout, placing our different sections in the correct areas. The second file is going to be what does the formatting for our text and our backgrounds, adds the colors and fonts that we want. So let's go back in and get started with that CSS file. Excuse me. Let's go to Text Wrangler, do an open, and we want TSS styles TXT CSS. So styles TXT. And I'm on page 95 in the textbook. So we're going to make changes to this. So the first thing I need to do is do a save as and add my name. Get rid of TXT. Make sure it's going back in the Tutorial2 folder. Oops. Alright. So the first chapter we talked about putting in comments. You'll use a lot of comments in CSS. Of course, the top always has our information with our name and our date. And then we delineate the names of our sections, or what formatting we're putting in throughout our page, just to make it easier so that when we go to find that information later, we can see it. So before we get started on making changes, let's make sure they're going to show. So we're going to go back into our HTML. And we are going to add another link. And this one is to that file that we just opened and renamed. So for me, it's going to be Pellerin_TSS_styles.css. And it's still a style sheet. And if I save this and refresh, it's not making any changes because we haven't made any changes in our style sheet yet. So the first thing you want to do is put your name on, of course. So the first thing we're going to do as far as formatting is add some colors. Let's go into our HTML and body styles section. So the first style rule that we're going to put in is going to be a background on our HTML, a background on our entire page. So under the HTML and body styles heading, I am going to type HTML, the tag that we would use in our HTML file, and then I'm going to open a squiggly bracket, press a couple of returns, and close our squiggly bracket. Within this squiggly bracket is all of the style rules that we want to apply to the HTML. So I'm going to press a tab just to keep this clean, and I'm going to type background color. You'll notice that it goes from teal to black and back and forth as I type. It will turn teal when it recognizes the rule. If your rule stays black, you know that there's a problem. So again, you can use those colors to your advantage. Always put a semicolon after your rule and then a space. And then we're going to use the HSL, which is hue, saturation, and light, to describe or define the color that we want for our background. So we want 27 for the hue, 72% is our saturation, and 72% is the light. And we always end our rule with a semicolon. If I save this and come in and refresh my page, now I have this light orangey peach color as my background. This is on the whole HTML. I know it's on the whole HTML because it goes from one side of my browser window to the other. You can see that this heading, this graphic at the top, that spans the width of the body of our page, and we will change the background of the body so that it stands out a little bit more. And that's what we're going to do next. So after our closing bracket for the HTML, we are going to call a body tag. So anything within the body tag in our HTML is going to have the formatting in this within these squiggly brackets. And the first thing I'm going to use is color and use semicolon. Now if I type color, it is going to change the text color for my body. So I'm going to use an RGB, a red, green, blue. So each number in our parentheses is the saturation of each of the colors. So it's 91, 91, 91. And I'm going to click a semicolon. And I'm going to go put my background color in while I'm here before I test. So background color. And this time we're just going to say ivory. So you can use RGB, RGBA, you can use HSL, or you can use the color names when you are defining a color for a style rule. So I'm going to save this and come in and refresh. Now we have our body delineated much better. It looks much cleaner because we have that ivory background on our body, and our text color is kind of a gray color instead of the default black. The next thing that we are going to change is some of our heading styles, anything with an H1 or H2. So I'm going to come down to the heading style section, and I'm going to say H1, open and close my squiggly bracket, and then within it I'm going to say color, white. So the text color of anything that has H1 around it is going to be white. And then I'm going to put a background color on my H1s, and this is going to be an RGB, 222, 128, 60. Make sure you put that semicolon after it. And then after that squiggly bracket, I'm going to come in and put some style rules in for the H2 tags. And again, my color is going to be white. And my background color is going to be an RGB 235, 177, 131. All of these colors can be found in your textbook. There are some pages that have some of the gradients on them. But you can go to Google and do a search for RGB, RGBA, HSL, any of the color styles that we use. You can find the color wheels or color palettes on Google. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to come in and refresh. And now you can see my H1 tags are these tags that have the dark orange backgrounds with the white text. H2 tags have a lighter orange background with the white text. So it's really simple using CSS to have a large impact on our page. So in this section, we added a background color to our HTML. Remember, that's the entire page. Sitting on top of that is our body. So we added a background color to our body, the ivory color. We added a text color to our body. We also added text and background colors to our H1 and H2 tags. So if your TSS home HTML file looks like this right now, you have successfully completed the first section of Chapter 2, and you are ready to move on to Section 2 of Chapter 2.